Jessica, thanks so much for kicking things off. Let's go and take a look. In an assignment like this, I just want to kind of mention the importance of giving a pretty thorough written description of your conceptual development, your methodology, as it were. And that's important. Let me just take it down here to Emily did a really good job here, and this is what we're after here. Otherwise, let me describe the relevance of this. I'm not just trying to nitpick, saying, "Hey, you have to describe your work." The relevance here is this twofold. Number one is you're going to be asked to describe your work for your entire design career. So in presentation, you wouldn't necessarily just submit the work without a written description of your intent and your conceptual methodology therein, right? Um, so there's a lot of viewers in this class. A lot of your peers they're going to be able to comment strictly on the visual merits here because we don't know your concept, right? So in other words, what does the foliage have to do with Wangari? Why did you choose this typeface? Why the color scheme? Why is this set with reverse type in the black part? Why the combination, why the color of the tagline, all sorts of things like that. So you really want to describe your intent to a very, very high degree in order to get the most accurate feedback possible. Okay, so I just think it's really important for you to understand that that will be a demand that's placed on a designer in a entry-level design position is you will be asked to describe your work to a very, very high degree. So I just thought it'd be relevant to mention that. Now, there's not a whole much I can comment on here because I really don't know what your intent is. So I can just comment on pretty much what I know about Wangari as well as far as the assignment requirements. So as far as the assignment requirements goes, there's no illustration or image permitted on the front cover. That's covered in the spec sheet, the course, and the assignment instructions, as it were. So I understand the relationship between Wangari and the foliage, and that's awesome. I get it, right? And that's good. It's a good, solid connection. The problem is that right now you're creating meaning illustratively, okay? Typography, in this case, very, very much takes a backseat to the illustration. The problem here is that it being a typography class, we want to rely on using typography to create all messaging and not illustration. Right now, this illustration is it's very much the focal point, almost so much so that this could be disregarded. So remember, we only have about 2 seconds or so to hook the viewer. If we don't hook the viewer in the first 2 seconds or so, they're going to look away. And right now, I'm just the disparity between this, the prominence of this, and kind of the subservient nature of this typography is such that I'm concerned that the viewer is going to look at this area, and if they're not hooked, they're just going to look away without even getting to the meat of the matter, so to speak, and that's the typography. So my recommendation is this: yes, you can create this connection with the foliage and Wangari, but try to incorporate it in the typography. All right, let me give you an example. And I love this, using this. Where is this? Oh, of course, announcements right here. This is such a super important announcement right here. Let me just take a quick look. Looks like you looked at the announcement, but I'd like you to review it again. And really take a look at this video right here. It's about 10 minutes long, but it describes each and every one of these examples. These examples are all examples of very, very high A work submitted by previous students, and this video describes to a very high degree the success of each one of these. So I'd like you to review that video again and see what we can do in terms of incorporating your visual message right into the typography. Okay, here's a great example right here. Okay, that fist is worked into the typography. So this is delivering a message right here. And the message is that, Toni Morrison, we can find out a lot about this this piece just by looking at it. So we know that Toni Morrison, even if we have no idea who she is, we know she's an American author. We know she writes on reality. Okay, we know that somehow she must be trying to establish power. This is a representation, a symbol of power, but also the chains represent oppression. So there's definite solid meaning being delivered, being created typographically. So this acts as an O that's considered typography. If this was separate and placed over here, for example, it would steal the focal point from the typography. You would be creating all message illustratively as opposed to typographically, and that's what's happening here. Okay, so somehow we want to incorporate this concept into the text. Okay, as far as the rest of I think their typography looks good. One thing I would recommend is you've got 1, 2, 3 typefaces here. That's about one too many. I personally, I think that this is a really bulky, a really super bulky typeface. It's super geometric, and it's very bulky. This is really organic, so I think this is a great relationship with the trees. But I would probably recommend using a sans serif. This looks like copperplate, but I would recommend just a sans serif, maybe like a universe or something like that, and then follow that with the tagline. Okay, so those are my recommendations. If you have any questions at all, I mean, I know I didn't really give you a whole lot of visual direction, but I'm just trying to get you to understand the importance of how to develop this concept and how to present this concept in a way that's coherent and cohesive, specifically with the course assignments. And I think you're off to a good start. I've got full confidence that you're going to ring this through, Jess. So if you have any questions at all, if you want to run something by me, if you can now on Sunday, please have at it. I'm typically out of the studio on Saturdays. So if you want to make some adjustments and run them by me tomorrow, I'll be glad to make further comments. But that's kind of where we're headed. So it's really super important. Let me know if you have any questions at all. I'll be glad to make any necessary clarifications. Okay, awesome start. Thank you very much, Jessica.